What exactly do people get to gain from imposing a curfew? What does the state government hope that it will achieve from imposing a curfew on Jos North? Where has the military failed? Where has Nigeria's security agencies completely failed to address some of these issues? And who will be made to answer these questions? For too long now, we've continued to live in this same space where nobody gets to be blamed, nobody gets to be fired, nobody gets to be court-martialed, nobody gets to, really answer questions because they failed. If 35 lives are lost, it is because there may be, or very likely, were distress calls put out that there was no response to. If 35 lives were lost, it is maybe because the military or the security agencies don't have a proper response time to some of these attacks. And the next question will be, what happens next after 35 lives are lost? And you may want to go back to other incidents where lives have also been taken by these elements, because we still aren't 100% sure who is responsible for these killings or what exactly is leading to these killings. And so what happens next after these incidents take place? These very, very sad and shocking incidents take place in Nigeria. What do you expect should happen next? Who would you expect will be arrested? Who do you think will be prosecuted? Which questions will be asked across the communities? And who is not being honest with the Nigerian society and the Nigerian people in general? What more does the Plateau State governor need to do? And it's a great thing that we're having a conversation on the breakfast this morning, a major conversation with persons from the Plateau State government to address some and ask some of all these questions. How is it that in Nigeria in 2021, I want you to listen to that again. In 2021, we're having state governors send buses to pick up students from the University of Jos. How do we have a situation like that in 2021? That people are being sent back home or being rescued from the University of Jos and sent back home. I'm not even talking about the communities now. I'm talking about the University of Jos. We've seen, even the Enugu state government sending a bus to get its, Enugu state indigents from the University of Jos back home. How has Plateau State and how has Nigeria found itself in this type of situation in 2021? And in a situation like this, you would also expect that there will be statements from the presidency. There will be at least, a body language from the president that shows, the severity of this incident and shows how sad and how urgent the presidency needs to take steps to ensure that they fix these things. Governor Simon Lalong in the news also went, to Aso Rock to meet with President Muhammadu Buhari to, appeal for assistance for those living in IDP camps. How are we in a situation like this in Nigeria today? And should that really be the response of a governor? There's some of the questions that I will be asking. Should that be the response of a governor after lives, dozens of lives, hundreds of lives are being lost in his state? He goes to Abuja to meet with the president to appeal for assistance for those living in IDP camps. First of all, the governor should be able to completely take care of every single individual living in an IDP camp in Plateau State. And when he has to go to Abuja to ask for assistance, then what exactly is he doing as a governor of a state? In what way has he been able to take steps to also protect the people of the state? And once again, who will be fired? Who will be asked questions? Who exactly will be made to pay for these things? If you remember, after the killing of 20 travelers a few weeks ago, there were reports a couple of people were arrested. The criminal justice system has also failed to prosecute anybody, and we've not been able to see anybody, to the full extent of the law prosecuted for these killings. And that's one of the reasons, and I've said this on this platform multiple times, that is one of the reasons these atrocities may never end, because there is no actual criminal justice system that puts its foot down on these killings and ensures that it never happens again. We have a huge problem in our hands in Nigeria. And, of course, it's going to lead us into our next conversation, where, of course, the Nigerian military has set up an inquiry into the attack on the Nigerian Defense Academy. It also came as a shock as we started the week, where we heard that about 3 military officers were killed in an attack on the Nigerian Defense Academy in Kaduna. We spoke about this yesterday, shared the distance between the Nigerian Defense Academy and the Nigerian Air Force Base in Kaduna State, and different details here and there why this is such a shocking incident in Nigeria. But of course, it's not shocking to a lot of people because it's not the first time we're hearing of incidents like this. It's not also the first time that we've heard, of army bases being attacked, of soldiers being killed. What was the response of the government in the past, and what would you expect to be the response of the government this time? There's people who have tried to pull in the tribal and, the regional card in some of all of this and ask, what would have happened if this happened in a different part of the country. But let's not go that far. The president, according to the news, is saying that this would spur and it would, push the Nigerian military to ensure that they, take better actions against these insurgents and these bandits and these criminals, whoever they are. But the questions will still remain: was this an inside job? How did this happen? How was the NDA breached so easily? How did these people manage to get out, after carrying out this attack? How did they, find their way out of that, location in Kaduna State and still have not been arrested, still have not been, prosecuted? These are very, very important questions. And I've always spoken about the body language of the Nigerian government and body language of Nigerian president. I've spoken over and over about some level of, PR that at least helps the situation. It may not save those lives immediately, but at least it might, save lives in the future, or it might at least show a government that is entirely concerned. When you put out a statement like, oh, the person who was meant to be manning the CCTV slept off, or when you put out a statement saying that, this attack would spur, those who, or the military to take action, it sounds to a lot of Nigerians like an insult to those who lost their lives. So once again, the question will be, what happens next? And there's also been statements that I've seen in the media saying that this, was maybe an inside job to embarrass the president. This, of course, is the biggest embarrassment for me, putting out a statement like that. And, making these type of claims is the biggest embarrassment after all of these incidents. What would you expect from a government? Imagine that in the UK, some elements attacked, UK military officers. Imagine that in the United States, army officers or, army, veterans, whoever they are, were Marines, were attacked in their barracks. I want you to have just an imagination of what, would be taking place right now, if they would have been arrested by now, if the president, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, whichever one of them, what, you would expect from him at a time like this. It doesn't in any way look good to see that President Muhammadu Buhari has not been able to express, the type of personality that feels completely saddened and distraught by some of all these killings. It also doesn't help when, some of his press men and, publicity persons make these type of statements. It's not in any way, about the president at this time. It's about the lives that have been lost in different parts of the country. It has nothing to do with embarrassing the president or has nothing to do with, making the president look bad. That's the least important thing. If you put together a list of 1,000 things that are important at this time, that would not even make the list. And so the lives of those officers are the most important, and protecting every single Nigerian life. And yesterday we tried to speak about what this means and, what this really tells about the boldness of some of these criminal elements, whoever they are. And it doesn't paint a really, really good picture with regards to Nigerian lives. So what would you expect to happen next after a situation like this? Who would you expect to take, the blame for a situation like this? Who would you expect, to take action after a situation like this? And how can the Nigerian government still continue to, tell the Nigerian people that they still aren't 100% sure who carried out these attacks or how they can be apprehended? It's not very difficult. And I'm sure that you know that if the DSS wants to find a person in Nigeria, they will find you, regardless of how long it takes or how hard you try, to hide. They will find you. The DIA, some of all those security agencies, military intelligence, they will find you. It's actually pretty easy for them to locate any single person. So why is it so difficult for them to find the leaders of these militant groups? Why is it so difficult for them to prosecute those who have carried out these attacks in the past and have been arrested? Why is it so difficult for the criminal justice system to ensure that they show Nigerians and they show these criminal elements that you don't mess with the Nigerian government on this level and expect to go scot-free? These are very, very big questions. We hope that we'll be able to, speak a lot more about some of all these things this morning on The Breakfast. In a bit, we're going to be joined by our guest for Off the Press, Mr. Ezekiel Nyaitok, is a public affairs analyst, to share his thoughts on some of the major stories making the headlines across Nigeria today. With that, I say good morning once again. Thanks for joining us on The Breakfast, and let's have a very interesting next 2 hours.
There is no drawing the line. The cancel culture is wrong. Call out is better.
General public perceives it as His Excellency, Her Excellency. What have you done that is excellent?
Yes. We've been so battered over the years that we've lost our sense of demanding for our rights.
Where you see young girls come out to say, I was raped, there's this attack, this silent attack. Some people would like to keep quiet, but you hear some people come out to say, are you sure?
Did you ask yourself, on the average, how many people will come to this place? Did you ask yourself, when they get there, what is the process for accreditation? You're trying to give money to what? 5,000 people, 200,000 people, you don't even know.
These guys are going to pilfer these funds and justify it with this fruitless exercise. It's very annoying to see that even despite all the criticism for this conditional cash transfer, schemes, Nigeria has continued to do worse, on the poverty index.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby's presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, you going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar? And I said, am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken.
Of you?
Yes, but without showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, you can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house. I said, well, it's my body and it's my front room.
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6.
So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating. And successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Welcome to your favorite program, The Moment of Truth, brought to you by the Citadel Global Community Church. Our God is a God of salvation, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, that regardless of what happens in this season, you will escape. Say to your neighbor, there is no peace for the wicked. The lazy man does not rouse what he took in hunting, but diligence is a man's precious possession. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might.
Moment of Truth with Pastor Tunde Bakare, Sundays, 7 p.m. on PlusTvAfrica.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thoughts and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
He suffered equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
Contrary to popular belief, corona is not a hoax. The virus is real. Be responsible. Wear a mask. Wash your hands with soap and water and avoid crowded places. Maintain physical distancing. Be responsible. Together, we can overcome the pandemic.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshuke. Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely. Right, no question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, no.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity.
No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's now time for Off the Press, and where we have a quick review of the major stories making headlines across Nigeria today. We're starting with the Punch newspapers, and we'll be introducing our guest for Thursday morning in a bit. On the Punch, there you have it. Plateau Benue gunmen kill 44 youths, deposit corpses at government house. Eat dead bodies if you can't protect us, protesting Plateau youths tell government officials. Protesters destroy governor's billboard. Lalong reimposes 24-hour curfew. Also on the Punch, grazing reserves, presidency knocks autumn, calls governor a serial defector. NDA, gunmen target 5 apartments. Federal government incompetent, says CAN, CNG and others. And also, Telecom Nigeria's data usage rises by 202% in 3 years. Still on the Punch this morning, Super TV CEO's family petitions IG, seeks new probe into murder. Kidnapping, cultism, Ogun's biggest security issue, says Abiodun. CBN threatens prosecution of forex policy defaulters. Again, daredevil robbers attack bullion van, kill 2 in Ondo. And also terror sponsors turning Nigeria into Taliban country, says an ex-naval chief. NNPC rejects customs proposal on petrol smuggling stoppage. I think that's all we're going to be taking on the Punch. Let's now move to the Daily Trust newspapers and see what we can also quickly find here. The big one there on your screen says, youths dump over 20 corpses at to government house. Anaguta leaders accuse herders of killing 37 members. We are not responsible, says the Fulani group. 24-hour curfew reimposed on Jos North, 10 suspects in custody. NDA, leaked army memo confirms Daily Trust report on loose fence. Bandits abduct widow in Katsina 24 hours after husband's death. Also on the Daily Trust, why NNPC retail stations in neighboring countries won't stop smuggling, says Kiari. PDP crisis, governors BOT take position on Secundus. And also, Delta confirms outbreak of bird flu. 164,000 birds reported dead. NDLEA sacks 35 for corruption and desertion. And now on the Guardian newspapers this morning. NDA attack, army sets up inquiry. Presidency assures of security. Ex-naval chief alleges sponsors of insurgency known to government. Attack won't dampen military action against criminality. And also, PDP charges National Assembly to summon Buhari, demands forensic investigation. Bandits may extend attack to DSS facility, housing Kanu, IPOB alleges. Also on The Guardian this morning, Jos in 24 hours shut down after fresh attacks leaves 36 dead, houses burnt. Youths storm assembly in government house with victims' bodies. Lalong updates Buhari, says all culprits must face justice. Declare state of emergency in northern Nigeria, says Zamfara governor. We can also find on the Guardian this morning, NNPC invests $2.7 billion in Dangote refinery. Gunmen murder 8, abduct 1 in Benue as diarrhea kills 8 in Kogi. Again, gunmen attack bullion van, killed driver and policeman in Ondo. And how Nigeria's poor airports killed over 30 airlines in 30 years. Finally, on the Daily Independent this morning, residents flee Jos City after gunmen killed more than 63 people, burnt houses. Mourners take victims' bodies to Assembly, Security Council. We could also find insecurity, cut short your vacation. Summon Buhari, PDP charges National Assembly. Calls on NGF and others to rescue Nigeria. Attack on NDA, I beg your pardon, can't dampen morale of our military, says President Buhari. Gunmen kill 8 persons in Benue community. PDP governors summon emergency meeting over party crisis. And also presidency carpets autumn over comment on grazing routes. Family petitions AGF, DSS, police and others over Ataga's murder. I think we're just going to squeeze in one more. Experts differ on portfolio diversification of pension fund investments. Good morning to our guest, Mr. Ezekiel Nya-Etok. Thank you for joining us. All right, while we wait to connect with Mr. Nya-Etok this morning, remember it's Off the Press and Plus TV Africa. And some of the stories that we've read this morning basically repeated across the papers. The big ones, of course, from Plateau State and the Nigerian Defense Academy incidents. The presidency's response, and of course the Plateau State governor. One of the papers says the governor, sends a report or visited the president to give a update rather. Yeah, it says Lalong updates Buhari, says all culprits must face justice, and that's on the Guardian newspapers this morning. It's one of the things that I had earlier spoken about. How this seems to be the modus operandi for Nigerian governors these days. When there's a crisis in their states, it doesn't seem like there is anybody from the presidency who visits these troubled areas, or send a representative if the president doesn't go by himself. Instead, we find governors using, of course, state funds to fly to Abuja and meet with President Buhari and either show pictures or give updates on the situation and bump elbows, because we're in a COVID-19 era. And, that's really what it is. And I'm not sure how a lot of Nigerians see these things, and what this really, represents or what this tells of the reaction and, how the Nigerian government really feels about some of these issues. It happened, when the Lagos State governor, of course, also took pictures of the destruction in Lagos State back then in 2020 to the president to, of course, do the same thing, bump elbows and, show pictures. Good morning, Mr. Nya-Etok. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. I hope I can be heard. I've hardly heard anything so far.
Oh, okay.
I hope you're here.
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me at all?
Yes, I can hear you now. Just that I've lost all the reviews, everything you've done. So I don't know how we can continue. But
all right, we're just going to, find a way around it. But let's start with your reaction to the crisis in Jos, Plateau State. The governor, Simon Lalong, has declared another 24-hour curfew in Jos North. And, of course, there were protests yesterday. 20 of these dead bodies were taken to the state government house, in protest. So let's start with your reaction to that first.
Well, I think it all comes down as much as possible to the concept of insecurity. And the question is, why do we have this constant insecurity? It's either what they call the header-farmer clash, or they talk in terms of which goes into religious aspects, or they are talking in terms of, communities clashing. And that of Jos has been persistent. And the question is, why can't the solutions be arrived at? And from all the analyses that I've looked at from all different sides, I think politics plays a major role in all this. But at the end of the day, human lives are lost. And it all comes down, in my opinion, I always bring it to one, which is that we don't pay attention to the essence of government and governance. And I couldn't quote this section enough, which says that the security and welfare of the people, the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. And we really need to wake up to this reality, because we'll keep having this analysis. The moment we have a governance structure in place that prioritizes the security and the welfare of the people, generality of the people, then we'll be able to address some of these issues. That of just is annoying in more ways than one. If some of us that are older always see just as one place that anybody would want to go and be, it would have been one investment destination in this country that would have done everybody so much good. But because of the weather they have, but because of insecurity, just has become a shadow of itself. So for me, I really don't know what more analysis to do than to say that we should refocus on what we understand as government and governance, and then our leadership recruitment criteria, where people who get into office think more in terms of themselves and what will benefit them and bring them back to power and sustain them in power, not minding which price that is being paid. That's the way I look at it. I wish I'd followed you in the preliminary analysis.
Well, Mr. Ayatok, if you're talking about the leadership recruitment process, that happens every 4 years, basically. Yes, there should be a build-up to that, but we've not seen a lot of people either resign or get impeached or get recalled from these positions, and so Nigerians have to live with those consequences for 4 years. The challenge that I believe we should focus on now is how these Nigerians can survive until the next leadership recruitment process. And so I want you to focus, a little bit on the reaction of the governor of Plateau State imposing a curfew. There was a curfew before these killings, but he has once again, reimposed that curfew, a 24-hour curfew in Jos North, and also has gone to Aso Rock and given updates to President Muhammadu Buhari. So I want you to quickly respond to the reaction of the governor, who should be the chief security officer of the state, and also President Muhammadu Buhari.
I'll be lying to you if I say I've heard half of the things you've said. And it's strange because it's a phone call, and I think you are hearing me well. The feedback is making it difficult. Please, can you just take the last part? I know you said I should react to the reaction of the governor, but then you gave a context to it.
Yeah,
what you said to the president.
I was saying, what's your response to the governor of Plateau State, who should be the chief security officer of the state? He has simply reimposed a curfew on Jos North and also has given updates to President Muhammadu Buhari. So, what can you tell about a response like that?
The number one thing is this concept of governors as chief security officers of their state has generated a whole lot of controversy, because you can't be a chief security officer when you do not control the operatives of enforcing the law. How do you enforce what you have no control over? So I think that's one area that everybody's clamoring for state police and all that. And within that context, I can feel the frustration of the governor if we are on the same page, because like I said, I seem to be answering questions that I seem to be setting for myself, as I'm not hearing too well. And
all right, Mr. Ayatok, we're going to have to, take a short break and reconnect with you, and hopefully the, sound will be better. All right, stay with us here on The Breakfast. We'll take a short break and reconnect with our guest this morning, Ezekiel Ayatok, and hopefully we'll get a better sound quality when we're back. We'll be back.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the results of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already, Abi.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say.
The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
And welcome once again to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Mr. Ezekiel Liantok, can you hear us clearer now?
Yes, I can hear you. It's better now, sir.
Okay, great. Well, because of the time that we have, we probably would just touch on two stories. So I was, asking that you, speak with regards the Plateau State governor and his reaction to these killings, imposing a curfew on Jos North, and of course, sending updates to President Muhammadu Buhari. You had earlier spoken about, the failure of the, him being called chief security officer when he doesn't have the apparatus, control over security agencies. But do you think that's a big enough excuse as to why the people of Plateau State are not properly protected? Mr. Yato, can you hear us? All right, I think we of course, apologize for the challenges with sound this morning. It has been off the press, where we have, of course, a review of the major stories across Nigeria. And, of course, try to share as many of them from some of the, news headlines in the country today. Some of them very, very sad. Of course, we shared with you the crisis in Plateau State and the reaction of the government. Also, the PDP crisis, and governors and the Board of Trustees still meeting to try to resolve some of those issues. We also spoke about the Nigerian government and the Nigerian Defense Academy and some of the reactions to that also. Ex-naval chief has also been in the news sharing what his thoughts are concerning the attack on the Nigerian Defense Academy. Sometime on the breakfast this morning, we're going to be speaking with someone from Plateau State, the Director, Center for Nomadic Education in the University of Jos, and also the Commissioner for Information in Plateau State, who will be joining us sometime on the program this morning to share his thoughts on the current issues in the state. Mr. Ayanto, can you hear us? Okay, well, since that's obviously not working, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be sharing with you things that happened on this day in history, the 26th of August. Stay with us.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
When I start hearing the shoot of guns.
Whatever I've done.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Great to have you once again on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Let's go back a little bit in history. I'm going, first of all, starting with 1970, where on this day, on the 26th of August, there was the Women's Strike for Equality. It was described as the 15th anniversary of American women being able to vote, and it was marked by a nationwide women's strike for equality. The strike was, celebrated the 50th anniversary of the passing of what was called the 19th Amendment, which effectively gave American women the right to vote. The rally was sponsored by the National Organization for Women, NOW, and about 50,000 women gathered for the protest in New York City and even more throughout the country. At this time, the gathering was the largest on behalf of women in the United States, and the strike also advocated for other second-wave feminist goals more generally, such as, of course, political rights for women, social equality in relationships such as marriage, and a couple of other things. It also received extensive local and national attention, both positive and negative. The significance really was to express, the vast requirements and demands that women across America still needed at this time in 1970. We obviously can see that things have changed and things have improved over time. There is now, wider space and more accommodating space for women. There still are demands, and of course I would mention that there still are demands for equality in different levels, equity, a safer space for women, more opportunities for women and some of all of that. But it's definitely a much better place than it was in the 60s and, prior to this day, and of course in the 70s. Okay, next story in history for today, we're going to the year 2015, which was just a couple of years ago, in Nigeria, in Niger State, where 14 people died in a boat mishap. It's, something that has happened a couple more times, over, the course of the last few years. We've seen in Benue State, we've seen, in a couple, of other states across the country. But 14 persons, including 11 women from the same family, listen to that, perished in a boat mishap in the river Sarkinpawa in Niger State. The women and 2 men who had gone to the farm to harvest groundnuts, and the only survivors were the 2 men. Really sad. Eyewitnesses told the newspapers then that the villagers were returning from the farm when the boat mishap occurred. The senator representing Niger East, Senator David Umaru, in a condolence message described the incident as shocking and unfortunate, and of course lamented the lack of roads and bridges in the area. Another, a really, really sad story here, and, this really should be enough, and incidents like this should be enough to push for better development to some of these areas, to reduce the risks that people need to take in order to get to their farms and get to their business places in many, many places across Nigeria. And we hope that, lessons are learned from some of these tragic incidents, and we hope that people who represent these areas, both at the local and the state level, and, of course, the Nigerian government in itself, is able to do what is necessary to ensure that there is a safer environment for these residents. Now we're talking security, and I'm hoping once again that we're learning the mistakes that we're currently making with regards to protecting Nigerian lives and property. But on this day in history, 14 people died in Niger State in a boat mishap in 2015. And in 1970, there was a strike, to, of course, protest the 15th anniversary of the right of women to vote in the United States of America. Stay with us. Of course, we are moving into our next conversation right now. We have joining us Professor Emeka Ozoji. He's the Director, Center for Nomadic Education in the University of Jos. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Professor Ozoji. All right, we'll reconnect with him after this very short break here on The Breakfast. Stay with us.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Nigeria, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Are you ready to party right from the comfort of your TV screen? The Rundown's here to save the day. From freshly baked videos to the classics to the youngins and dope conversations, all in one chart. We got you covered. Just tune in to The Rundown every Friday, 10:30 p.m. West African time. The Rundown. Let's turn it up.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the result of tomorrow's election. You have it already.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say.
The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
There has to be a decision point. The way your baby is presenting, we have to rush you in. And my partner at the time was like, "You going to cut her? Are you going to cut her? Is it going to leave a scar?" And I said, "Am I a belly dancer? What is the problem here?"
No, I'm vulnerable about the future of the children, the future of mine and the future of the generation of my children.
I want to have nude pictures taken. Of you? Yes,
Yeah,
but
we
without
have
showing my private parts. I want to put it in my front room. And they said, "You can't do that. People will be embarrassed when they came into your house." I said, "Well, it's my body and it's my front room."
All the things that we do, what is the purpose of it?
I just realized that I was more trusting before I was 6. So many women, they just feel like I have to cook for my husband, I have to breastfeed my children, I have to pick them from school.
Because society expects
Then you
them
go
to.
home and you cry and you stop your career, you can't do anything, then you blame everybody. You took that choice.
Welcome once again to the Breakfast on PlusTvAfrica. We're now joined this morning by Professor Emeka Ozoji, the Director, Center for Nomadic Education in the University of Jos. Good morning, Professor Ozoji. Good morning, Professor Ozoji. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for joining us. All right. Can you hear me clearly, Professor Ozoji?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
All right. You're welcome.
If you can be more audible.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're just trying to start with asking for latest updates from Plateau State. The news reports say that 36 people were killed, in the latest attacks. There's also been evacuations from the University of Jos because of the crisis also happening over there. So can you give us the latest updates from Plateau State?
All right. Okay. Good morning, presenter. The situation in Jos, Plateau State, is calm following the imposition of curfew, 24-hour curfew in the city. And people are really complying with the curfew. Everywhere is calm. People are not moving around. And I think if we are to continue this way, before long, the curfew will be reviewed. I'm really impressed with the response to what to the government's call for curfew.
Yeah, but, would you say the curfew is the answer to ending the killings in Jos?
Well, it is, I suppose, because if the curfew wasn't imposed by now, the story would have been quite different and it would have been more disastrous. So I think I would commend the governor for taking proactive measures to increase the period of curfew from 6 to 6 to 24 hours. And that has actually brought the situation to very normal for now, that people are indoors, and it's actually helping.
All right, so now let's talk about, seek details into what exactly is happening. What would you say is responsible for these killings? Who are these people that are committing these atrocities?
Well, this is a security issue, and I think we have to listen to those who are responsible for handling or managing security in the place. As a non-security person, one cannot make exact guess of what actually prompted or what caused the situation on ground. So for all we can say is that we know something is happening. Where it is coming from or who caused what, one is not in a position to say or to know because it's not within one's area of action or jurisdiction.
Don't you have, any ideas whatsoever, where this might be coming from? Are these communal clashes? Are these attacks by, militia? And of course, this includes also the crisis. Now let's also go into the University of Jos, where you're, a professor.
Yes.
In the last, few weeks, we've heard about, state governors sending buses to evacuate their indigents from the University of Jos. So you're in the University of Jos. Can you also give us some clarity as to what is going on?
When the problem started, the University of Jos was running her second semester examination for 2019-2020 session. As it was in the middle of that exam that this problem started. And the university administration took very prompt action by suspending the exams for that week, hoping that the situation will return to normal for us to continue. Unfortunately, it didn't, and quickly the university administration now extended the suspension of the examination until further notice and ask students to go home until the situation is normal, then they will be recalled, given sufficient time to come back and resume their exams.
Yeah, but you mentioned, that it was during the semester examinations the crisis started. What I'm trying to get, and this is what I hope that you'll be able to share with us, what exactly is the crisis? That's what we're trying to understand this morning. Because this is a university community, so what exactly is the crisis that you're speaking of in University of Jos?
The university's community, and we only hear that this has happened or this is going to happen. What caused that is within the people outside the university, but we know we experience the ripple effects of the situation, the scenario in the city. But for us as academic staff, the university as a member of the community shares in some of the pains of what has happened. For instance, right now, students are home, lecturers are not going to work, university is more or less like a ghost town. That is the ripple effect of what has happened. And for as long as it is this way, there will be no progress in the academic calendar. And that will set us back, really. rather than moving forward.
Has there been any incidents that have happened on campus?
Come again?
Have there been any incidents that have taken place on campus?
Well, apart from the people that were killed the first time that it happened, no other one has actually happened. And well, we don't pray that any other one will happen within the university community, either as staff or students. Right now, students are at home, so we don't expect them to be affected. Yes.
Okay, so can you also share a little bit about the first incident, the one you're referring to? What was that incident about?
Sorry, come again.
I'm asking about the incident you just referred to. Can you share a little bit, more information concerning that?
Certainly, there's the influence. The university is part of the ecosystem of the community of the state, and now all the businesses that depend on students and staff are all grounded, and the immediate community of the university is like a ghost town. Those that apply and convey students to hostel and lectures are not there. The food vendors are not there. Those around the provision shops and all that are not there. So it affects everybody within that community.
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to get, and apologies that I keep harping on this, you mentioned an incident that happened there the first time on campus that, of course,
yes.
You're saying,
yes.
There is hopes that it never repeats itself. So it's that incident I'm trying to get. Was that also, killing by a militia, on campus? Was that a communal clash on campus? Was that a tribal clash on campus?
Well, all I can say is that we were all in the campus carrying out our legitimate activities when it started. And the curfew that was imposed, not everybody actually had or got to know about that. But those that got to know actually stayed in the hostels. Quite a few, probably for one reason or the other. For instance, the student that was going to church ran into this type of problem. But apart from that, every other thing was quite normal. And the loss of life, those few students was very unfortunate. And we pray that we don't experience such again. Parents didn't send their children to school to experience that type of situation. And we pray that when we have the opportunity to call back, we'll confine ourselves to our activities, run our lectures, write the exams, and bounce back to normal flow of academic program in the university.
All right. What's the current security situation in Jos? Are there security agents, across the city?
Well, the town and gown effect of the university and community is still there. And we hope that we will live peacefully and we will respect each other's rights to live peacefully. And because that will give us the opportunity to benefit from each other. And that is what our prayer is.
No, what I'm asking is, now that there is a curfew, is the town, is the community, are there security agents currently present in that community?
Well, it's difficult. It's difficult for me to say because I'm in my house. As a responsible citizen, I'm in my house. So I wouldn't know precisely what is happening out there within the university community. But I know within where I live, everybody is responding and everywhere is calm.
Okay. What other response would you want from the governor of the state, Simon Lalong?
But come again?
I'm asking what other, steps would you expect from the governor of the state?
I'm actually full of praise for the governor for actually taking that immediate step to impose the curfew. And I believe, as a chief security officer of the state, is that the administration will discuss probably with our own administration. And when they put their heads together, they will come up with a level playing ground that will make for peace and comfortable existence. I'm sure at that level, the governor is responsible. The acting vice chancellor of the university is also responsible. And two of them will never allow this type of situation to drag for long. And I'm sure they're actually putting their heads together. They are discussing the issue. And before long, the actions, the meetings they are holding will bear fruits. And normalcy will return.
Professor Emeka Ozoji, thank you very much for
Thank you very
your
much
time.
for the
Thank you for joining us this
opportunity.
morning. All right. Some of these conversations are really set for truth and clarity with regards to what exactly is taking place in Jos, and so that the media itself also stops misinterpreting some of these things. Of course, we'll be speaking with someone else in Plateau State this morning to understand better, if these are communal clashes, if these are killings by militia groups, if these are killings by bandits, or if these are religious, issues once again. I'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll be joined by someone else who, of course, is reaching out to us from Plateau State this morning.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Welcome once again this morning on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We're now joined by Dan Manjang, the Commissioner for Information, Plateau State. Good morning, Mr. Manjang. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, everyone.
All right, let's get into the discussion. I want us to start with getting some clarity as to what exactly is happening in Jos.
Yeah, well, what is happening in Jos is in the public domain, but I can tell you the official issue is is that there is a curfew that has been imposed on Jos North local government, Jos South, and then Jos North, Jos South, and Bassa local governments. This curfew, we had, yeah. Hello?
Go ahead, Mr. Manjang, I can hear you.
Yes, I said what is happening is that there has been a curfew imposed on Jos North, Jos South, and Bassa local governments. We were on the verge of relaxing the curfew in Jos North because it was for 24 hours. When we had a carnage the day before yesterday in the night, we had an issue. People were killed. Scores of people were killed. And so what happened, what has happened right now is that the curfew, the 24-hour curfew on Jos North was restored under the directive of His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State. Arrests have been made. If you are privy to the press release that was issued by the Director of Press and Public Affairs. Arrests have been made. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Manjanga, yes, I have...
You're not hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. We're aware that arrests have been made. I think the papers say about 10 people have been arrested. But, you know, what we're hoping that we would understand is what exactly is causing the killings in Jos? Who are these people responsible for these killings? Can you share with us from what you know?
Yes, from what we know, like the one that happened last week or thereabout, the arrest will show, will now unravel the people that are doing the killing. But we wouldn't want to stereotype the people. The security is doing that. But I can tell you what clearly is playing out is historical. It has been over the years. What is clearly playing out is that apart from the criminal element that is involved, there's every attempt to be able to chase people from their land and then occupy it, because that has happened in the past. And what government has been able to do is to provide the enabling law to an anti-grabbing bill that has been signed into law by His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State. And so we expect that people will now will take advantage of this law. But I can assure you that clearly it is, apart from the criminal elements that is involved, it is an attempt to, because of the pressure on land, to be able to chase people and then occupy their land.
So who are these persons that are trying to occupy the lands of people in Jos?
Like I said, the investigation is going to show. It's not for me to say this, to stereotype a people now, because these people are, the arrests have been made and investigation is going on. There are people that have made confessional statements even in the past week, pointing accusing fingers to some community leaders that have been on bail. And their bail conditions have been reconsidered, and we take it from there. The judiciary, the onus rests upon the judiciary to be able to tell us who these people are.
Mr. Manjang, you're not necessarily stereotyping anyone. What we're trying to understand is, who these people are, that are trying to chase residents in these communities in Jos away from their land. It's not stereotyping anyone. It's simply saying that,
The investigations are going to show who these people are. Investigations are on. It will amount for me putting the cart before the horse.
Okay.
When investigations is not concluded, it's going to be prejudicial for me to do that. But when the time comes and the investigations are concluded, we'll put it in the public domain. At this moment, we'll not be able to put it in the public domain because the investigation is going on. There are people that are handling the matter, and I cannot go on public television and then go ahead of them and say, these are the people. I'm not part of the arrest. Probably the Commissioner of Police will be able to tell you.
Okay, now let's also talk about the reaction of the Plateau State Governor. There was a curfew that was imposed in Jos North, which has now been extended, and made to a 24-hour curfew. Would you say that a curfew initially failed, and this might be, work this time?
We wouldn't say that the curfew failed, because without that curfew being put in place, the situation would have escalated. It would have been worse. It would have been a free-for-all fight on the streets of Jos and beyond. And so the curfew has been able to put people in check wherever that they are. The curfew has been able to allow security to occupy these areas and bring to the barest minimum the carnage we would have been experiencing on the city of Jos. Yes, there are the pockets of even killing during the curfew period, but it is not enough for us to say that the curfew failed. The curfew, as far as we are concerned as a government, is doing what it is supposed to do, is providing the the enabling environment so that we can checkmate this kind of crisis. Otherwise, it would have been a free fall. And what I'm saying is, there's only 3 local governments out of the 17 that this thing is happening. It has not even spilled over to any of the local governments. So we thank God that the situation, the peace initiatives that we are putting, the curfew being one, has been able to contain the crisis where it is at the moment.
On the state level, Mr. Manjang, this isn't the first time that we're hearing of, sadly, it's not the first time we're hearing of a situation like this or killings in Plateau State in the last couple of years. Has there been anyone in the last few years that has been prosecuted to the full extent of the law, has been arrested and prosecuted for these killings?
As a state government, I was managing information during the past administration, and I understand the issues very well. There was the Nikki Toby Commission of Inquiry set up by administration before the other one, the Joshua Dari administration. The Jonathan administration had Bola Ajibola, a Commission of Inquiry. And I can assure you that what government did is to be able to come up with white papers to provide the enabling environment, to make sure that there's prosecution. One of the issues why people are so angry is because the provisions of these commissions of inquiry never have not been implemented. People are calling, and we also call for the implementation. I can tell you that the Nikki Toby Commission of Inquiry, for example, indicted a commissioner of police and said that he should be relieved of his position, but he was instead promoted to the position, to the rank of an IG. These are some of the things that pain us. People would say, what have you done on your own part as a government? Government has been able to be magnanimous to come up with the white paper in the first place. Otherwise, if the white paper was not brought, you will not have anybody you will not have the document to prosecute. And you know, you know that prosecution depends on, it's at different levels. For government to be able to provide the white paper is good enough, and there are other levels the courts need to prosecute individuals who feel they are shortchanged. The white paper provides for them to go and seek redress in the courts of law, and those are the issues. Government cannot do what people need to do. There are things that government would do, and there are things that the people would do. There are things that other arms of government would do, which they may not seem to be doing.
So, okay, well, so are you then saying that, progressive governments in Plateau State have had their hands tied and not been able to prosecute anybody, for these killings, including those who have been arrested in the past? Because now there's more arrests. So, would these people who have been arrested and investigated, would you say that they also will not be prosecuted?
Yeah, when you talk about government now, then you have to specify, you have to define which part of government. The executive arm of government has been able to provide the enabling environment by coming out with the white paper. And so the executive arm of government will not arrest. The executive arm of government will not prosecute, will not take people to court. But the enabling environment has been provided by coming up with the white paper, duly ratified by the State Executive Council.
So what you are saying now is that the state security agencies, the state's criminal justice system has not been able to act on recommendations from the Plateau State government over time.
It's not what I am saying. If people have been given justice, there are instances whereby people were caught in this state in the past, in the life of the past administration. They were taken to court. In the process of them being prosecuted, their court files were transferred to Abuja, and that was the end of it. It is in the public domain. At that point, what would the state government have done? Because they were being prosecuted in the place where they, according to the enabling laws. This is what we are saying, that justice, if justice is not done, it's not only seen to be done, justice must be done so that it can serve as a deterrence to others. But what I'm saying is that as a government, the enabling environment has been created so that justice can be delivered to those that feel they have been shortchanged.
The governor of Plateau State was also, seen to be to have visited President Muhammadu Buhari, sometime this week or sometime last week. Can you confirm that there was that visit, and what the conversation was like in Aso Rock?
Yes, there was that visit, and the conversation is also in the public domain. The conversation is talking about the state of insecurity of the state. The conversation is talking about the humanitarian crisis that we have, and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has given directive that the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs should take charge and should come to the aid of Plateau State, because we have that at the back of our mind. And what the governors of 36 states are saying, they should not be called only chief security officers of their state, but they should be given some semblance of authority to be able to command the troops, and that is state police, policing, and in some instances, community policing. But the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been up and doing. He has cooperated, has directed the Inspector General of Police to send detachments of mobile police to come and reinforce the security men that are here on ground, and that has been working for us. Without this cooperation, without the federal government, I don't think we would have been where we are. Little would have been done. That the president has acted within the capacities of his powers. But what we are saying is that there's still more that needs to be done. Like people would always say, as Oliver Twist, we always ask for more. If there's anything that we would ask, we also want to appeal to our brothers in the National Assembly, because it is the constitutional matter. Let them give the governors the teeth to bite, not for them to only back, not for them to only buy vehicles, buy gadgets for security, fund security, and at the end of the day, they cannot command even a boys brigade, the captain of the boys brigade.
Yeah, but there's also security votes that are being sent to the governors every month. I'm sure you are aware of that. There's funds being sent for security, and so it's expected that the governor should be able to make use of those funds in somehow or some way to ensure the protection of lives and property in his state. Don't you agree with that?
It is being done. That is being done. That is why we are supporting the security. That is why in Plateau State today, we have the Peace Building Agency, and we are supporting the agency with that. That is why we have the Interreligious Council, where we are supporting them. And that is why we have, as a state, we have Operation Rainbow, which is a semblance of the state police, and we are supporting them. And that is why in this state, in Plateau State, we have been able to employ 3,500 youths and posted them to 17 local governments and trained by the police for intelligence gathering and matters like that. And it has helped. It has yielded results. Otherwise, if we had not done all those things, I can assure you, we live in Jos. The problem with people is that people that don't live inside Jos, the problem, they don't know what is happening. Without these initiatives that we have put in place, there would have been no Plateau State today, I assure you.
Okay, so share with us, and I hope that we can. Or before I get into that, I want you to go a little deeper with some of the concerns that you stated earlier. You said that there has been a white paper, there has been a action plan that has been stated over time by governors and governments of Plateau State, but there doesn't seem to be action from the executive. You made mention of people who have been arrested, who have been found culpable, and their files are transferred to Abuja, and that, seems to be the end of the case. Is this information, also being sent to President Muhammadu Buhari? Is he aware?
At that time that happened, it was not President Muhammadu Buhari that was there. It was in the life of the past administration. Because I was the media advisor to the then Governor Jang at that time, And so I knew the situations very well. And the past administration did raise this, and we are raising it in the public in the public domain now. Whatever happened is in the public. It happened with human beings, and it will not be out of place for the federal authorities, even in this administration, to raise the issues. All what we are saying is to be able to find solutions to the problem that we have. We have to go back and dust the books, dust all those white papers, dust what has happened if we want to be fair to ourselves and make sure that justice is delivered. Because justice denied is not good. There will be a reoccurrence. And this peace matter, this peace process, should be, all hands must be on deck. When you say government, and I have problems with that. Yes, we know that government has a responsibility. We have sworn to even protect lives and property, and that is what we are doing. But all hands must also be on deck, because government is also human beings. Government is not an aberration, is not a utopia. Government is human beings, is people.
Before we, I'm going to be introducing another guest to, of course, join in this conversation. But I want to ask Dan Manjang, the Commissioner for Information, Plateau State, how do you feel personally about these killings in your state?
We feel very bad, very, very bad, very sad, because there's a lot that we need to have done. We have gone so many years backwards now, because resources are being channeled to what we did not bargain for. And even if it was something that we bargained for, we will not bargain for crisis. We feel bad. I feel bad as a human being. We feel bad as a government that our peace initiative has been ruptured, that our developmental efforts are being slowed down. And so we feel bad when even an animal is killed wrongly. So we feel bad that even if it is a human being, only one soul that we lose wrongly, we feel very bad about it. So it's not a thing that any right-thinking person on Plateau State would say is happy about.
All right, I'm going to get back to you, with regards the relationship and communications with the Commissioner of Police in Plateau State. But before that, I want to introduce Dave Zoyong. He's a native of Anaguta. I hope I pronounced it right. Good morning, Mr. Zoyong.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Thanks for joining us. So I want you to quickly also share your views on what currently is going on in Plateau State. Of course, if you've been following, we're currently speaking with the Commissioner for Information. But, you're a native. So kindly share with us, as best as you can describe it, what is going on in Plateau State?
Thank you for the opportunity. Like you said, I'm Anaguta by tribe. And it's a very rude shock for my community, because this is the very first time it's happening to us as a community, and we're getting to the global limelight just for the wrong reasons. If you are familiar, eventually, if you maybe get to read about the history of Anaguta Basin, we are only found in just North local government. You probably haven't heard of us because there hasn't been any reason negatively to be heard about. We've lived peacefully with everybody in the state. Every people that come to Jos know us as a peace-loving people. But it was a very rude shock for us to wake up and see. From no provocation, our people just slaughtered, burned to ashes while they sleep. I'm still going through the trauma. The community is still going through mourning. We've read about this. We've sympathized with people. In Plateau State, we have our Bureau brothers that have suffered this over time. We have the Iroquois people that have suffered over time. But, you will never know how it feels till it happens to you. So this is something we never prepared for. We just read the pages of these papers. That happens to other places in the country. We see our brothers, close neighbors, these things happening to them. But to experience it yourself is a completely different thing. So the atmosphere, it's very tensive now. We are trying to grapple with the fact that we are in a very dire situation right now in Jos. There's a curfew going on, but there are talks. We are comparing notes and seeing what we did wrong or what we did not do right for this thing to happen to us as a community.
Is there any information with regards to the people responsible for these attacks and these killings?
It's too. I don't want to be presumptuous about that. There's a process, identifying those that are responsible for this. I spoke with the Commissioner of Police yesterday. He assured me that there were 10 arrests being already made, and I hope they will, bring out the identities of those that are involved in this. From stories from what has happened in neighboring communities, it has been, it's said that it's the Fulani people that do this. But I don't want to say it's Fulani people that did this to us until the proper investigation is done. And I'm aware that there are a couple of people that are injured and have identities of those that did that to them, but they still have to be profiled through the security agencies to have a particular identity of those that are responsible for this.
Okay, and then also, speak about the conversations of this being a communal clash, between two tribes. You remember some time ago there was the Irigwe community that also had its own chaos. So is there also those possibilities that this is really just two communities fighting each other? Or is it, land grabbing, as the Commissioner for Information had earlier mentioned? Is there possibilities that it's maybe people trying to, kick or kill and drive some people away from their land?
I will go with the latter, because when you say there's a community clash, there must be two communities involved. And there must be casualties on both sides, or some sort of, imbalance in the umbrella group. But in this case, people were sleeping. So how is it a clash? We are blessed with a very, very fertile land in Jos. And I will not run it from a theory that is a deliberate act to take away the land. There are complaints that there are illegal, encroachments in lands in Jos. There are green areas that are being encroached upon by people close to this place that this thing happened. There have been court cases and judgments concerning this, and nothing has been done by government to reclaim these lands. And I'm aware that there were attempts a couple of some years ago in the last administration that when the process was going to come to bear, the government set up a task force for city renewal, they called it then. And the task force went, demolished houses in one part of the state. And when they got there, they were rebuffed by the people that illegally occupy those places with weapons. And nothing has been done since then. So the theory of land grabbing is totally in place. I believe it absolutely.
Okay, before we go back to Commissioner for Information Plateau State, Dan Manjang, Mr. Zoyong, I want you to also, quickly share your views on, an incident that took place a few weeks ago where there was reports of about 20 travelers that were murdered. Was that properly described?
What I can tell you is the same thing you read or investigate as a journalist. I totally condemn the fact that people are traveling and this thing happens to them. But you see, I'm also aware that, there are times where passions are ignited. There are people who become collateral damages to things they know nothing about. And, I'm aware that the day this thing happened, these people were going to bury, the kids and kings that were killed by Fulani people, because they are called Fulani people. And it just happened that these other people are Fulani who are passing through that route. It's a very bad coincidence. I totally condemn it. It's not a good thing. They are just victims of what they don't know anything about.
All right. I want us to go back to Dan Manjang, the Commissioner for Information Plateau State. Mr. Zoyong, kindly hold on. Mr. Manjang, can you still hear us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, great. Mr. Zoyong has, of course, shared his views and also agrees with your narrative concerning the land-grabbing perspective. But I want you to speak with regards to the Commissioner of Police in Plateau State and how, he has also assisted, in the recent times in helping solve this crisis.
Yeah, well, it is not only the Commissioner of Police, the GOC 3rd Armored Division has been up and doing. and the Inspector General of Police have been up and doing in this matter, and so the gentlemen are doing their best to make sure that we restore peace on the plateau. They have their challenges like any other person would have, but we want to put it on record that even yesterday the Commissioner of Police was with the people. He followed through even to the government house where the corpses were deposited. He was there. He was talking to the communities, talking to the people, trying to pacify them. And I can assure you, we didn't have any casualty. We didn't have any incident. He allowed the people to vent their anger, to be able to, so that they can calm down. And we thank God that there was no incident at the House of Assembly. There was no incident at Government House that would escalate the situation beyond what it was. Under normal circumstances or in other crimes, you would have even incurred further casualty, but the security agencies acted in the most professional manner that they should. And so we want to give kudos to them, even though there's much that they need to do to make sure that since they are occupying these territories for this community in Yelwan Zangam, yesterday they were complaining that.
Now, it seems we may have lost the Commissioner for Information there, Dan Manjang. Mr. Zoyong, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to you now and also get your thoughts on the response of the Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong. News reports say that he also has visited President Muhammadu Buhari and, given updates on the security situation in the state and, also asked for assistance for internally displaced persons. But I want to get your view on his response as the Chief Security Officer of Plateau State.
Well, there's a place of governance and there's a place of people who are governed. There's a place of security and a place of civilians. The governor has his protocol of speaking concerning issues of state, and he has to be seen to be doing, being in charge. But it's one thing to say this is happening, and for a person that is happening to agree whether it's happening properly or not. Well, he's given his report to the president, and I don't know the full content of the report, but from what I gather, he gave the president the impression that normalcy has returned to Jos. And unfortunately, it was while he was there that this happened. So I don't know at what level he got his intelligence or estimates that gave him the content of what he told the president. I'm aware that the government is doing its best, to calm the situation. And like I mentioned yesterday, I said, I heard you also ask Mr. Manjan about the curfew. Curfew is good, but curfew should not be good for certain people and other people. It has to be a totality. Those that are the hinterlands, which is the center of attacks in Plateau State, are the people that need security more than those that in townships. There are particular spots in town that if you put security people, crisis will not escalate. But the people that are vulnerable are those in the villages, in the outskirts, that these marauders go to with no security. So I don't know the definition of curfew. Is curfew just meant for people that are living in town or particular places? Because this carnage happened when there was curfew. That's what I keep saying. There was curfew just behind the University of Jos. So the university community itself is not safe. We all know that we heard that a lot of parents are removing their words from the university. Governments are taking their words out of the university because of the exposure of the university to these communities. I think they should go beyond speaking the normal and make sure that there is a physical presence of security people to assure the people that we're here.
Okay, hold on. Welcome back, Mr. Manjang.
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. Mr. Zoyong believes that the curfew may not be enough, and maybe if there was going to be a curfew, it should be centered on the communities where these crises is taking place, not across the whole of Plateau State or not across the whole of just North. Mr. Manjang, is it in any way, how does it feel knowing that as we are speaking currently, there's a possibility that there are still persons in just North and or maybe other parts of the state that are heavily armed in some of those communities, maybe waiting for, the next time that they can strike? What, does that make you, or how does that make you feel? And what would be the steps that you would take if you were in positions to, take action?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, it is very sad, whether we like it or not. There is proliferation of arms in the hands of people. People illegally own weapons. It's a huge issue that has to be grappled with. There was a point in the life of this administration that we wanted to mop up those weapons and provide an amnesty. We gave a deadline. We could only retrieve a few of it. All I can say is that it is very sad that we will have this kind of situation. And like you did say, if I were in a position of this to handle this matter, the way we are going about it is the way I would also go about it. I will appeal to the sensibilities of the people. There are stakeholders that you need to sit down. Religious institutions have a responsibility. Religious leaders have a responsibility. Community leaders have a responsibility. And to a very large extent, we have to now change our style of talking to stakeholders. When you gather stakeholders in government house and you talk to them, and you don't involve the people that perpetrate these acts, the youths that are full of energy, that are unemployed, that are doing these things, then they would not have done much. So what we are doing as a government is that we are telling community leaders, local government chairmen, councillors, that they should cascade it down to their various communities, because I believe that there's nobody that does not have the person that he listens to. And so we must go back to the drawing board and look at the issue dispassionately. And the target should be these youths that are causing this harm. The other issue is to be able to reduce to the barest minimum the way they can get access to illicit drugs and things that they consume, because there's no human being that is in his right senses that will go and commit this kind of heinous crisis. So we all have to put our hands on deck. The curfew, I heard my brother David talking about it. We agree that there are issues that criminality is still being perpetrated under curfew, but him and me know with all sincerity that without the curfew, it would have been a free-for-all fight, and the situation would have been uncontrollable. They would have not had, just not today, would have not had probably Plateau State. Without the curfew has helped to put people in check. The curfew has helped to be able to occupy, and that is what we are doing. If there's nobody in the position of authority, including my brother David, that is happy about what is happening in Plateau State right now.
Well, free-for-all fights, paints a picture that there's fights on both sides, two people clashing. But from what, has been described in our conversation, it feels like it's just one side attacking the other. Mr. Zoyong, I'm coming back to you now. These communities that were previously attacked, do you have any information as to who currently occupies these communities? Is it still the core indigents, or is it, maybe some of those who had attacked and have taken over these communities?
I will give you information as, spoken by the senator representing the Northern Zone. He had come out categorically clear to say that over 60 villages have been taken over by Fulani herdsmen in the Northern Zone. and they're currently being occupied by them. Physical structures. So when people say these people are unknown, they are unknown. I don't know the definition of unknown. You know the locations. They have told you these are the houses. There's a geographical contiguity they're occupying. It's not hidden. It's not in mass. So it's a very straightforward answer. These people are known. Their locations are known. The structures are known. They are in particular places, especially in Barkeladi and Rim local governments. They are known. So it's a straightforward answer, sir.
Mr. Manjang, would you confirm that?
As a matter of fact, we have always said that people that perpetrate the act, even the governor has corroborated to say that they are not ghosts, that they are not unknown. But we don't want to stereotype people, because I can assure you that as a government, I have said it times without number, even when they are known, there's the enabling environment. Government has been able to put a bill and then it has been signed by His Excellency into law. Anti-land grabbing, I've said it, that this matter is about land grabbing. And I've said that the enabling law, you cannot even prosecute even when you know them. You cannot even prosecute when the enabling law is not there. But for government to have provided the enabling law for them to be prosecuted, the people are now challenged to go ahead for the prosecution. They have the enabling law to be able to prosecute. It's not for government to continue to prosecute. What government needs to do, it has done by providing the enabling environment for people to prosecute. And like he did say, it's not for everything that happens is human beings that perpetrate acts. They are not ghosts. The governor has said there is not ghosts that kill people. They should not be called unknown. The communities, there's nobody that lives in a community that is not known. And if stranger elements come in, the community leaders should be able to know. There should be rules of engagement of living in a community. And government recognizes those rules of engagement.
Mr. Manjang, so this is where I have a challenge. One of the reasons that I asked about the relationship with the Commissioner of Police in Plateau State, if you have that rapport, you have that relationship, you are saying that, or you agree that these communities have been, infiltrated. They know the new faces in the community. They know that these communities have been infiltrated by foreign elements. You don't want to stereotype them, and that is fine. But does this mean that the Commissioner of Police himself also knows that these communities and the people who have perpetrated these crimes and killed indigents of Plateau State and Jos North are known, and they are still in Plateau State and they are still in Jos North, but the Commissioner of Police cannot take action? Is that what you're saying?
No, that is not what I am saying. That is not what I am saying. I said they are being profiled, they are being prosecuted. It's not enough for the Commissioner of Police has to do his own. He is a gentleman, a fine gentleman that assisted this community, that assisted this state, that is up and doing, and it is until investigation is done, until they are prosecuted in law, they are presumed to be suspects until it is proved beyond reasonable doubt. So it takes beyond the Commissioner of Police. It is a holistic approach that has to be done. It's not to begin to cast aspersions on the Commissioner of Police at this moment. I would not do that.
Yeah, well, he's currently heading the police in Plateau State, and if both of you agree that these elements are known, arrests have been made. I asked you earlier, and that's what the reason that I asked you earlier, if anybody has truly been prosecuted over time, from Joshua Darie to Jonah Jang to currently Simon Lalong, if there's anybody who has been truly prosecuted for these, killings. And, you weren't 100% affirmative that anybody, you even said that some people are arrested, they're found culpable, but their files disappear to Abuja, and that's the end of the case. And so, that's why I'm asking you now. So yes, the Commissioner of Police is a fine gentleman, but he is aware from both of you, what both of you have said, that there's people who have committed these atrocities that are still in Plateau State, that are still in those communities, that have taken over the lands that they have chased people from. But he still has not taken any action. You've said that they are still investigating, but from what we've seen in the past...
Action has to be holistic. It's not only there's where his rights begin and end. That is where the rights of another person begins and end. He cannot go. The best he can do is to profile them, take them to court, and the courts to prosecute. And until somebody we know the judicial system in this country. There is a case that has stayed in the Supreme Court for 22 years. We know the judicial system in this country. So what I'm saying is that it is holistic.
All right.
But any attempt, everybody has the executive, the legislature, the judiciary. Everybody has his own share, has where his limits begin and terminate.
All right.
But you cannot cross boundaries and begin to say you do the job of the other people.
Absolutely. I want us to wrap up with Dave Zoyong. If you can, in 30 seconds, quickly also respond to my last questions before we go.
Yes. What I will say here is that this problem predates this present Commission of Politics. Like my brother said, Dan, when you speak of government, you speak of government as an entity. When you make separation, you talk about 3 arms of government. They are supposed to be 3 arms working as a unit. And I'm aware that the only thing that has stopped this implementation of the white paper she spoke about is the political will. And who has the will? Is the government. So I don't know if there's a difference in these governments. It's something, there are documents, there are literature we've gone through that are very, if you read the content of the white papers, they are supposed to have nipped this crisis in Plateau State from the beginning. But it's the political will. And who has the will? It is the same government.
All right.
Except we have a clear-cut decision between the state and federal government and blame the federal government or the state government for not doing the right thing, they will keep ruling. But like I said, these people are known. They are profiled. They know them. There are crises. You cannot occupy my house and I'm saying I'm profiling you. You come to my house, kill me, take over the house, and I report and I say they're profiling you while you are still living in the house. It doesn't make sense to me.
All right. Dave Zoyong and, of course, Dan Manjang, thank you both for sharing this morning with me and for, of course, being a part of the breakfast. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If no talk, then go beat you. Now 2,500 they pay.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the result of tomorrow's election. Okay, you have it already. I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say. The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, you know, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, you know, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
And my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Thanks for joining us on Plus News Brief. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa. Several persons were feared killed, with many others injured after suspected herdsmen attacked Yewa Zagam village in Zangam district in Jos North local government area, Plateau State. The attack, which occurred on Tuesday night, left several houses burnt. While there's yet to be any official statement from security agencies, it was observed at the Plateau State Specialist Hospital that there were no fewer than 16 corpses at the morgue, while those injured were receiving treatment. This comes just days after the state governor, Simon Lalong, had imposed a curfew on Jos North, Bassa and Jos South local government areas following an attack on Rukuba Road in Jos North local government area.
You know, when you have a very heavy heart, it's always difficult to even start saying something. Last night, we were told by the phone call from the casualty that this is what happened. They just suddenly brought some corpses from one police officer. According to the report, that he found them somewhere around Yelwas Gazam or something like that, just behind the university student village. And they were 15 in number, and with the smallest about 8 years old. And so at that moment of hearing that news, you know, most of us, we didn't know where to start talking again. We felt very, very much demoralized. But, well, life has to move. We're just pleading for calm, for what is happening on the nation and on the plateau.
What has happened is totally condemned, and that is inhumanity to man that we are seeing. But we have to call on the security men, people of the security, particularly at the federal level, because it has gone beyond the strength of the security men in Jos. The SL have been doing their best, but they are not doing enough. And if you can look at the killings, over 15 that are here, and we are told over 20-something bodies were roasted, and nobody is saying anything about regarding this issue.
The city of Jos and its environs have experienced palpable tension following the killing of several persons in Yewa Zangam village in Plateau State. Vexed by the latest assault, which left many others injured on Tuesday night, a group of young persons stormed the Plateau Specialist Hospital, where the corpses of victims had been deposited, and evacuated them into vans. They later proceeded with the corpses to the State House of Assembly, blocking all roads leading to the area. Despite the address by the Speaker of the House, who sued for calm, the youths were not satisfied with the response and proceeded to Government House, where the corpses of the victims were laid. And Governor Umaru Fintiri has vowed to continue in ensuring the safety of the people of Adamawa State, both at home or in the diaspora. The governor gave this commitment after the successful evacuation of students of Adamawa State studying in the University of Jos Plateau State. Our correspondent reports.
Sources, about 5 students of the University of Jos Plateau State were killed and several others missing despite a 24-hour curfew imposed on affected local government areas of the state. Worried by this development, Governor Umaru Fintiri quickly swung into action by ordering the immediate evacuation of students of Adamawa State extraction studying at the famous University of Jos Plateau. The Adamawa State Students Leader, University of Jos, says life was becoming difficult because of the curfew and there was no enough food for them.
We were threatened by lots of activities. I think that is the reason why the government had to impose the 24 hours curfew. Like 5 students died. From Adamawa? Not from Adamawa. And that was the reason why the curfew had to be imposed. And there are a lot of students who got missing because the situation got them not in their houses, not in their hostels. So that's what actually happened.
So wonderful, we want to appreciate the effort of His Excellency because this time around is the third time that he is proving to the entire citizens of Adamawa State that he is truly a governor of the student.
The Adamawa State Commissioner for Youth and Sports, Loisos Babadoke, who received the students on behalf of Governor Umaru Fintiri, says the governor has been restless over the crisis in Jos.
Since the beginning of the crisis in Jos, the governor is restless. That is why we have been running up and down to make sure that we evacuate our students back home. And also, it is a concern of the government to make sure that this student has come back safely.
The intervention of the state government has been applauded by the people of the state as they pray for normalcy to return to the troubled coast city of Jos and its environs.
Still in the news, 8 persons have been killed by gunmen in the Yelewa town, Guma local government area of Benue State. The attack was said to have occurred on Monday around 7:30 p.m. Yelewa is a border community between Nasarawa and Benue State on the busy Makurdi-Lafia Federal Highway. The inhabitants are predominantly Tiv farmers. Senior Special Assistant to Governor Samuel Otom on Project Monitoring, Faga Uto, who is from the area, said a housewife who was cooking and her 4 children were killed during the attack. And the presidency has again condemned what it called the promotion of ethno-religious politics and divisive utterances by Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, made the condemnation in a statement on Wednesday in Abuja. The statement says Governor Samuel Otom has a few political principles. It adds that in an attempt to boost his alleged sinking political fortunes, Otom takes the cheapest and lowest route possible by playing on ethnic themes, and in doing so knowingly causes deaths of innocent Nigerians by inciting farmers against herders and Christians against Muslims. Following the incessant security bedeviling the nation, particularly the Northeast, the Chief of Defense Staff, Leo Irabo, has interacted with the retired military officer in the Northeast to find a lasting solution. General Irabo said the retired generals in the Northeast geopolitical zones have a great role to play in curbing the activities of kidnapping, Boko Haram, and all forms of insecurity in the nation.
Worried by the security challenges faced in the country, particularly in the northeastern part, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, says the experience and ideas of retired senior military officers will go a long way in tackling the menace. General Irabo said the military is taking serious measures to bring the security challenges ranging from the abduction of school children, among others, to an end. Reacting to the early hours attack on NDA that led to the death of one officer and the abduction of a major, the CDS said the incident is worrisome and the military is looking into it with keen interest.
In the next few days, few weeks, of course, we expect that the situation will keep getting better and better. It's part of the reason why I'm here, along with my team, to interact with our retired senior colleagues. What we're looking for is a solution, a holistic solution at that. We believe that as we engage with them, they'll be able to open up to us areas that we may not have actually thought of, and things perhaps which they may consider as mistakes that we've made, and for us to make corrections. The whole essence is to indicate that this problem, the solution to this problem, is everybody's business.
Earlier, the Commander 23 Brigade, Brigadier Aminu Garba, who represented the GOC 3 Division, said the contemporary security challenges in the region call for a holistic approach that entails all hands to be on deck, including the retired senior military officers.
As a privilege, hosting the Chief of Defense Staff himself, I must commend the A-Team and, of course, the Defense Headquarters for this laudable initiative of tapping from the wealth of experience of the retired military officers through cross-fertilization of ideas, finding the way forward to the contemporary security challenges bedeviling our dear nation.
One of the senior retired generals applauded the efforts of the Chief of Defense Staff, describing the gathering as timely and that it will go a long way in addressing the challenges bedeviling the country.
Still on Plus News Brief, Governor Hope Uzodimma of Imo has called on Nigerians, particularly those in leadership positions, to protect the sanctity of the nation. He also called everyone to uphold the rule of law. The governor made the call when he briefed State House correspondents after a closed-door meeting with President Buhari. According to him, all citizens must condemn criminal activities whenever they occur, and justice must be served on whoever is found wanting. He also spoke on the attack on the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna. Uzodimma said people must not take the laws into their hands, no matter their grievance. And President Muhammadu Buhari says the attack on the Nigerian Defense Academy by gunmen would rather hasten the process of ridding the country of all sorts of criminal elements. The president, who reacted to Tuesday's attack on the NDA's permanent facility in Afaka, Kaduna State, during which some personnel serving within the institution were killed, however, vowed that the victims of the attack would not die in vain. According to a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, Buhari affirmed the consequence of the attack would finally result in the wiping out of criminalities in the country. And still talking security, the major minority caucus in the House of Representatives says it is alarmed by escalated acts of terrorism and bandit attacks across the country, and particularly Monday's invasion of the Nigerian Defense Academy, resulting in the killing and abduction of military officers. The minority caucus notes that the heightened attacks on military formations and mindless killings and maiming of innocent Nigerians by bandits and terrorists in various parts of the country, despite the assurances of the All Progressive Congress administration. And Nigeria has signed a military technical cooperation agreement with the Russian Federation. The Minister of Defense, retired Major General Bashir Salihi Magashi, signed the agreement on behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, while the Director of the Federal Service for Military Technical Cooperation, Dmitry Shugev, signed for the Russian Federation. This was disclosed in a statement issued by the Nigerian Embassy in Moscow, Russia. Still in the news, Edo residents have reacted to the recent statement made by Edo State Governor Godwin Obaseki, the statement over the forceful vaccination of residents across the state. In a statement, the governor noted that from the second week of September, nobody would get access to worship centers, and they would also not be able to bank without COVID-19 vaccination cards. Of course, this didn't go down well with Edo people. The president of One Love Foundation, Patrick Eholo, spoke to our reporter Akpo Mejero on Friday, in Benin City on the matter. He noted that the policy of Operation Show Me Your Vaccine Cards by Governor Obaseki is not acceptable. It's a system of sending the poorest Nigerians to jail, and the number of vaccines on the ground can't get to every resident in the state.
How many jobs have you given? How many hospitals have you built? How many palliatives have you given out? I remember the last time you heard our palliatives. You heard it. And they destroyed. And they were fighting. They were fighting at Tezame Road. Some of the stores you want to go hold it. Let's get real. I have no personal issue with you. But let us do this. Let us feel for the people. Let us have empathy for people. Let us not be stone-hearted.
Do we have enough vaccine to vaccinate everybody? Let's assume that everybody said, okay, they want to be vaccinated today now. Do we have enough vaccine to vaccinate everybody? The question is no. So we cannot just be creating unnecessary confusion here and there. People already have plans. So will the governor tell us that if by this time next year, he was preparing for election, if the governor was preparing for election, that the way he was preparing election last year, will he make such law to affect his election? His campaign and everything? The question is no. So what is good for the goose is also good for the ganjas.
First and foremost, we have to find out how many vaccinations do we have on ground and what are the population. Can this vaccination go round? Estimately, Edo State is about 5 million. And with what we've had, they say the vaccination they have is 77,000. How will this one correlate with each other? All the residents cannot have the vaccination, so this idea of restriction will not work.
And now to some COVID-19 updates. Australia's new daily cases of COVID-19 topped 1,000 on Thursday, the first time since the global pandemic began. 2 major hospitals in Sydney set up emergency outdoor tents to help deal with a rise in patients. Sydney, the country's largest city and the epicenter of the current outbreak, is struggling to stamp out a surge, especially with the fast-spreading Delta variant. Daily infections are hitting record levels even after 2 months on the lockdown.
To 8 p.m, there were 1,029 cases of community transmission and 3 people lost their lives, and we extend our condolences and sympathies to their families. Unfortunately, all 3 were unvaccinated, a male in his 30s, a male in his 60s and a male in his 80s, and again we extend our deepest condolences. And whilst the system is under pressure and whilst obviously the system is kicking in the procedures that we have in place for planning for these additional cases, the system has capacity. And I want to make that clear. We don't underscore for a second the pressure the system's under, especially the hospitals within those areas of concern where hundreds and hundreds of cases are currently active. Early on in the pandemic, some 18 months ago, we increased our capacity for ventilators and ICU from 500 to 2,000. Now, we're not intending to use all of those at the one time by any stretch. And we know the system is under pressure, but please know that we've quadrupled our capacity. So everybody who needs help will get that help. It might be differently to what you've got help before because of the situation, but please know that the system is kicking in. It's under pressure, but it's able to cope with everybody who needs that attention.
And now in business news, the Association of Petroleum Marketers in Imo State have embarked on an indefinite strike to press home their demands of their sister body, Petroleum Tanker Drivers Association, and the issue of multiple taxation on their members by the government of Imo State. Vice Chairman of the association, Chimodu Martin, said the tanker drivers withdrew their services over alleged refusal of the state government to obey court judgment on the payment of compensation to their member whose filling station was demolished by Okorocha's administration. Meanwhile, the Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Declan Emelumba, said the government will be meeting with the association to resolve the issue for the betterment of the public.
Over 350 trucks in our various borders to Imo State. These are products that are highly flammable, of high price, high cost, and you know that it is a bomb. The state, as I speak to you now, is almost dried of petroleum products. Yesterday, some of you saw us were with the state government. is the same issue. There is a problem between the tanker drivers, a member of their association, with the state government. And they will do their services since last Tuesday.
But they said that they met with all the local government caretaker committee chairmen and had an understanding and a MOU with them that they should hands off everything about filling station, that we are going to pay a consolidated bill of 100,000. We had that agreement with that gentleman. I'm very sure that no marketer pays anything less than 500,000 annually to
Summer, the Ikorodu boys jumped on the opportunity to recreate and deliver an extraordinary star, fashion designer and presidential hopeful tweeted about changing his name after releasing an album titled Ye. At the time, he referred to the being formerly and formerly known as Kanye West before announcing that he would now be known as Ye. And in sports, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's hat-trick helped Arsenal to welcome a first win of the season as they beat a young West Bromwich Albion side to reach the Carabao Cup third round. Aubameyang marked his first start of the season with 2 first-half tap-ins and a curling finish after the break. The win could have been even bigger with Martin Odegaard hitting the outside of the post from the tight angle and Pepe striking the bar with a chip. Still in sports, top seed Pablo Carreño Busta eased into the quarterfinals of the Winston-Salem Open after a straight sets win over Dominic Kopfer. Carreño Busta needed just 67 minutes to see off the German 6-2, 6-3. The Olympic bronze medalist moves through to face Ilya Vashka in the last 8.
Game in first set, Carreño Busta.
And that's the news brief. For more, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osao Ogbonwa. Thanks for watching.
Comic Republic is a Nigerian startup where we tell African stories. We push the African narrative forward through a traditional art form that is popular all around the world, which is comic books.
We kind of write stories that everybody can find a bit of themselves somewhere in there. You know, when you read our books, you will always be able to find one book that you are able to connect with, even if you are not an African. It's not just for Africans alone, but it's the African narrative. That's really what we do.
We take the process of telling our stories, making our comic books engaging. We do it professionally and we take it as a business. We're growing bigger every day.
We try to make sure that all of our comics, all of our content has a positive message underlying them, even apart from all the action, all the punching, and all the superheroics.
Right now we have close to 48,000 downloads per comic book. We get between 5,000 to 7,000 unique visitors every week. Nigerians have been really excited to see people in Nigeria creating heroes from Nigerians, telling Nigerians that we can be everything we need to be if we only try. The comic business actually has a wide range.
One of the major things that actually helps us to move forward here is the fact that we are more than just a team. We're
strong and they are efficient. We want to do the same with Comic Republic. That's what we want to do at Comic Republic. That's our vision. And until we're number one at that in the world, we're not going to stop.
Plus Sports and Plus TV Africa on a Thursday. Welcome on the show. My name is Wale Scott. I've got Mukail Tinubu as usual. Welcome on the show.
Hello.
Now, Nigeria had a bad start to the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games as all the 5 para-table tennis players lost their opening games on Wednesday. Now, Hamed Khalil before losing the next 2 sets, ending the game with a 3-2, 11-6, 7-10, 9-11, 11-9, 11-3 loss. Alabi Olufemi was a 15-minute casualty, falling to the superpower of China's Hao Lian, 3-0, 11-6, 11-4, 11-9. Like the other 4, Faith Ozae also lost 3-0 in the women's singles. She was defeated by Chinese Taipei's Xian Tian, 3-0, 11-9, 11-3, 11-5 in just 13 minutes. I'm not surprised at the fact that they lost to, some of them lost to Asian people. I'm not surprised at that one. It's the ones that lost. And I've always been a big fan of the Paralympics team. But it's not always been in table tennis, really. Other sports, most importantly, weightlifting, not table tennis. So I'm not disappointed yet at this.
Well, as we know, the Asians practically invented the sports of ping pong. So they dominate every competition. But then some people might, unlike you, who is not entirely, disappointed. Some people might.
I'm not disappointed, no.
Some people
in
might.
these sports.
Yeah, I understand.
When it comes to weightlifting, when it comes to running, rowing, I might be disappointed.
But then against mediocre or with mediocre, you become mediocre. When you play against top level, you improve increasingly, incrementally until you are yourself one of the top level guys. And resources allows you to go for these competitions, these test runs, meets, if you may say, and in Nigeria, we just don't seem to have that consistency because one administration comes in, focuses a little resources in it, the next administration comes in, and then they're not so focused. So,
well, later on the show, we're talking about the French Le Championnat, Paris Saint-Germain, following months of speculation about his future. Now, the story has been covered and closely and answers key questions on what it means and what comes next. How much of a surprise was it to see Harry Kane confirm?
Wonder why maybe they're not doing this. Or no, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy to get through a Champions League group. So yeah, if we can win tomorrow night, then it'll put us in a better position than last year, and obviously we ended up going to the final. So we have to believe, we have to, every game we play, fight for each other, and then who knows what.
Too much talk. In fact, Harry Kane's matter has caused so much problems. We're actually arguing in the studio right now.
I think the problem, kudos to him for being a top professional.
How old is he and how much money is being put on him?
He's been very dignified in the way he's handled this whole situation, even if some, I don't want to insult them and their credibility, even if they've come out and criticized him on air, even though most of them have never been in the situation he has been in, trapped at a club that isn't going anywhere, constantly claims that it's going to vie for trophies, never gets there. And at 28, this was his last chance because no one is going to come back for him at 29, even though it's just a year difference. As a striker, managers hope that they can get at least squeeze 5 years out of you so that longevity and consistency in the squad is available. But I guess this just goes to show you that when you're a top professional, you're probably going to lose out. If we remember Steven Gerrard, if it wasn't because he won Champions League football and maybe a couple FA Cups, we would say his career was mostly a failure because the one trophy that he tried for years to win, the Premier League, he couldn't lead it.
He never got it, yeah.
And now, Harry Kane will probably never win a trophy, a major trophy.
With so much talent.
With so much talent. And he's one of the very best strikers to have come out of England since Rooney.
I'll come to this story to you. Yeah, in basketball, yeah, in even in hockey, even in cricket. But when you see a football game that ends 12-0, I'll come to you on that one. Bayern Munich head coach Julian Nagelsmann hailed Jamal Musiala, one of the world's football's best teenagers. Now, he's only 18 years old. He scored twice as Bayern beat fifth-tier side Brent's SV 12-0 in the DFB Pokal clash. Leroy Sané was also on the score sheet in Bremen, with Nagelsmann thrilled by the winger's focus during his 68-minute shift on the pitch. This guy is one of the biggest things happening in the world of football right now. He's taking over from Haaland. He's taking over from Jadon Sancho. He's the biggest thing right now.
It's
and he's a wingman.
And I don't want to talk about him specifically. I want to talk about this match because I wonder, for fifth-tier club, how does a Bayern Munich and a fifth-tier club end up playing against each other? That's completely unfair.
Is it DFB Pokal?
It doesn't matter.
It's like the FA Cup.
I don't care if it's a League Cup. It doesn't matter. They should have never.
How do you beat them 12-0? Bayern is not really a fantastic team right now.
Yes.
For me, right now.
Yes.
They're not.
At this point, right now, there's nothing about Bayern that scares their top European competition.
Absolutely nothing.
They still have, sure, they have their players, their top players have had longevity. Müller, Lewandowski, Kimmich, Goretzka. All these players have been playing for a while now, and this club doesn't even really build. They don't buy major additions to the first team. They might pick up a squad player, one or two, hardly ever two, and that player is just going to fill out the bench for most of the season. But you end up giving them an opportunity to play a small team like this. Of course, their credentials seems like they're scary, and they just aren't that scary.
On this show, sometimes sports people, sports events, try to make myself and Mukail look like liars, look like we don't know what we're doing. We do. But these events just make us look like we don't know what we're doing. Top seed Pablo Carreno Buster eased into the quarterfinals in the Winston-Salem Open after a straight sets win over Dominic Koifa. Now, Carreno Buster needed just 67 minutes to see off the German 6-2, 6-3. The Olympic bronze medalist moves through to face Ilya Sticker in the last 8. Now, American tennis star Serena Williams has withdrawn from next week's US Open after she said on Wednesday that her torn hamstring had not completely healed ahead of the final Grand Slam of the year.
Open champion on Wednesday said that her torn hamstring had not completely healed. Williams posted on Instagram, quote, "After careful consideration and following the advice of my doctors and medical team, I've decided to withdraw from the U.S. Open to allow my body to heal completely from a torn hamstring." Injuries have plagued the 39-year-old American this season. Back in June, Williams limped out of her first-round match at Wimbledon in tears due to the leg injury. Then she skipped the Olympics in Tokyo and also opted out of the Cincinnati Masters, known as a tune-up event for the U.S. Open. Her withdrawal from next week's Grand Slam tournament cast further doubt over whether she can match Margaret Court's record of 24 major titles, as she turns 40 next month. Williams has reached the finals in 4 Grand Slams since having a child 4 years ago, but has not won a major since picking up her 23rd title at the 2017 Australian Open, losing in straight sets each time.
Serena, like the Yoruba would say, Agbatinde, you know, so she withdraws, she says the torn hamstring is not letting go, and she really has to let it go.
She's won so much, and it's crazy to me that now she's almost 40, and we're talking about the possibility that she won't even match a record that everyone expected she would break. And she's been playing since she was 14, which tells you that even though these majors, there are multiple majors over the course of a single year, it takes a lot to win them. And most of the time, these athletes, these tennis players, get into a stream of form and they win back-to-back in a couple years. And that's where most of their major wins come in. And the rest is spread out over many years. Serena Williams, I would have put plenty of money down maybe 5 years ago that by now she would be above the record by 3 majors.
But injury came into force, reckless social lifestyle came into force too, and I guess...
Well, I mean, I don't know if this qualifies as a reckless social lifestyle. I mean, she was pregnant for a time.
Before then, she had these issues of nightclubbing and all that. So.
Well, I mean, when you're successful, really, you should get to enjoy your youth before age catches up to you.
The public don't see it like that.
Well, it's not the public. The public did not determine whether she got to play. The public did not determine whether she had the talent to succeed. And the public definitely shouldn't get to determine whether she gets to party after so much success. Anybody else, after accomplishing maybe just 15 majors, heck, just 10 majors, and we'd be like, you know what? If she wants to party the rest of her career away, fine.
Why not?
Fine. She has plenty of sponsorship deals. Money is not a problem. She's got a beautiful family, and the record is just something for posterity. It's not going to change how successful she has been.
Valerina Shabalina of the Russian Olympic Committee set a new record in the women's 100 meters fly 7:14 and track cyclist Sarah Dane, story of Great Britain, and Tristan Bangner of the Netherlands also set best ever times. There was plenty of action at Tokyo Aquatics Centre with Australia's William Martin taking gold in the men's 400 meters freestyle S9, followed by Ugo Didier of France, and Alexander Trockfeld, also of Australia, with silver and bronze. Well, Australia earned their second swimming gold with Lacaise Patterson, winning the women's 400 meters freestyle in the same S9 class.
Didn't really have very high expectations for this race. Just coming in as just a bit of a warm-up race to start the meet, and I don't think it can really get any better than that. So yeah, feeling great now.
I'm just astonished I can come to my first Paras and get a medal. That's more than any outcome. I wouldn't care what colour it is, as long as it's around my chest. That's a win in my book.
Slightly overwhelmed. You know, we're here without friends and family, and it's been a long time, so yeah.
A major question. We were on the show on Tuesday with Halim, and we spoke about being physically challenged. But you spoke about a dwarf in the team Nigeria. And the question is, some people would tell you that a dwarf is not
physically challenged.
He's not physically challenged.
Especially in this era.
He was just built that way.
Yeah, especially in this era of political correctness.
Yeah.
He's disadvantaged, but not...
He's not physically challenged.
Physically challenged.
Really?
He can't do certain things, but that's to be expected because even you and I were the same height, but you can't do some things I can do. And
Because of your height?
Because of my height,
Yeah.
because of my age. It's all about biology, and sometimes there's difference in biology. Doesn't mean that someone who's just disadvantaged against someone, because even in golf, they have handicaps.
Sure.
If you're a shorter person, you have more handicaps than a taller golfer. But you can probably generate less power than a taller golfer. But they account for that, they compensate for that. And it just raises the question of how do you justify putting someone whose challenges, whose physical challenges are different, very different, to someone else and have them play the same sport against each other?
Okay. This is where I come to Mukail on this one.
Don't come to me.
I will. Former world number one, Andy Murray. Now, Mukail is a big fan, for the record, of Andy Murray. Was knocked out of his last tournament before the US Open on Tuesday. Francis Tiafoe of the United States, while top seed Pablo Carreno Busta needed 3 sets to progress to the third round. Tiafoe is ranked 51st to Britain Murray's 114th, and is hoping to return to the top 50 after defeating the Briton 7-6, 4-6-3 at the Winston-Salem Open. Now, Spain's Carreño Busta, who beat world number 1 Novak Djokovic in July to win the bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympics, dropped the second set against South Korea's Sung-Hwa Kwon, but rallied back to win 6-3, 3-6, 6-4. Tiafoe will face Thiago Monteiro of Brazil in the third round, while Carreño Busta will take on Dominic Koifa of Germany. Paris Saint-Germain, Lionel Messi. People claim, I was reading something yesterday, and Cristiano Ronaldo said he asked his son, his first son who is playing football, small boy, that who's the best footballer ever? And he said he was expecting him to say, you, Dad. And the guy said, Lionel Messi. Come on. You don't tell your dad that kind of thing, but well, it's happened. But this guy went to Paris Saint-Germain. Well, the man rated to be one of the biggest players in the world, and his shirt was sold out in 30 minutes. Record-breaking. But this league has lost. He's not even number 5 on the list of leagues across the world. Yeah. The Bundesliga has taken over, English Premier League, of course. You know?
It begs the question because a few years ago, people have always referred to League One as a farmers' league. And the notion that a Messi or Ronaldo would ever go there seemed unlikely. But PSG have so much money, and Messi and Ronaldo...
Well, Kylian Mbappe went there, Angel Di Maria went there.
Yeah, but Kylian Mbappe wanted to stay in France.
Neymar went there.
These players all had their various reasons for going there. PSG have never won a Champions League, and Neymar, because of his ego, thought that as long as he could help them win it, then he would be in line to win the Ballon d'Or. Yeah. And that no matter how well he did at Barcelona, all credits would always be put on Messi. Because even if he scored 30 goals, if 15 of those goals are delivered assists by Messi, Messi gets the credit. So as for Mbappe has always had a trajectory of how he wanted his career to go. He wanted